Welcome to an overview of Post-Apartheid South Africa. In this investigation, you're trying to figure out how to respond to the question, is post-apartheid South Africa living up to its promises? Today, as you begin learning about South Africa, instead of memorizing names and dates from a textbook, which is really hard and not particularly interesting, you will instead read and hear several different perspectives. You'll discuss with your classmates, and then make your own decision about what it all means. Read.Inquire.Write lessons are called investigations. Throughout each investigation, you're looking for evidence to figure out how to respond to a central question. You'll notice that our investigations never say answer a central question. Instead, you'll hear us ask you to respond to a central question. That's because we believe there is not one right answer. There could be multiple answers. So we want you to respond to the question with evidence. Read.Inquire.Write investigations support you in building a case for your argument using evidence and reasoning. Over time, this kind of work will strengthen your reading, writing, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills. In this investigation, you're trying to respond to the central question, is post-apartheid South Africa living up to its promises? This central question refers to an important period in the history of South Africa. There was South Africa before apartheid and South Africa after apartheid. So what is apartheid? Apartheid is a system of laws and policies of total racial segregation. In 1994, apartheid ended in South Africa. Nelson Mandela was elected president in the country's first democratic elections. When apartheid ended, there were dramatic changes in South Africa. Many South Africans hoped for better lives. This is why our central question asks, is post-apartheid South Africa living up to its promises? We'll now examine your task for this investigation. A social studies textbook includes a chapter on South Africa. However, the textbook only covered South Africa up to 1994 and before apartheid. It did not teach students what happened after apartheid ended. The editors of the textbook are revising the South Africa chapter, and they will include the years after apartheid. But how should they represent the changes that have happened? Your task is to first think about the sources and central question for this investigation, and then write an argument to the textbook company about whether post-apartheid South Africa is living up to its promises. Use evidence and reasoning from the investigation to support your response. You will write an interpretation-style essay to respond to the central question. Remember, an interpretation-style essay is a type of essay that helps you share what you think about the question based on evidence. Our investigation will guide you step by step in developing your response. Let's review those steps now. First, you'll begin by examining important events in South Africa's political history. You'll use this timeline to make connections to what happens after apartheid. Next, your teacher will provide you with different sources to read about post-apartheid South Africa. You'll use these sources to determine how post-apartheid South Africa should be represented. To help you read these sources, your teacher will provide you with this bookmark. The bookmark tool will help you understand, analyze, and evaluate sources about South Africa. The bookmark prompts you to make annotations, or detailed notes, about the sources. You'll do this as you read and after you read. For example, in this source, you can see that a student has circled important information about this interview with Zondwe, a black South African woman. The student also made notes about what those lines and circles mean. You will do the same on your sources, and the bookmark tool will guide you. Making these annotations is really important because they will help you remember key ideas in the sources. This way you don't have to try to remember everything or have to reread everything later. Instead, these annotations will make it easier to determine how post-apartheid South Africa should be represented. In step 3, you will weigh the evidence presented in the sources about post-apartheid South Africa. You will begin by sorting the sources based on your understanding. Then you will construct and discuss the arguments based on what you have learned from these sources. Then in step 4, you will read and analyze a mentor text similar to the type of interpretation you will write about post-apartheid South Africa. A mentor text is a sample of writing that shows you one way to organize and write an interpretation style argument. It includes important parts such as claim, evidence, and reasoning. It's a good example of the way you can structure your own response about post-apartheid South Africa. Just remember that the mentor text is not exactly what you'll write, and it is not a source. The mentor text is one example of what your essay might look like. Next, you'll use the planning graphic organizer. The graphic organizer is like a roadmap for your essay. It helps you organize your ideas about which sources are most reliable for learning about post-apartheid South Africa, and it will prompt you to give evidence and reasoning to support your argument. You will use all of the work you've done so far to help you develop this roadmap. You'll look at your annotated sources, you'll determine what argument you think is strongest, and then make decisions to plan the essay you'll write. Then in step 6, you're ready to write your letter and respond to the central question: is post-apartheid South Africa living up to its promises? Be sure to use the sources you have read to write your response and make the strongest argument. We know it's sometimes difficult to start writing. That's why we also include a useful language tool. You can look at this tool to choose from examples of how to start your claim, evidence, and reasoning. Finally, after you have spent some time writing, pause to use the reflection tool. The reflection tool will help you review what you have written so far and set goals for your next steps. The reflection tool reminds you about what to include in your argument. Let's review quickly the 7 steps you'll take throughout this investigation. 1. Make connections. 2. Read and analyze sources using the bookmark tool. 3. Weigh the evidence. 4. Analyze the mentor text. 5. Complete the planning graphic organizer, deciding on the argument you will make. 6. Use the useful language tool as you draft your essay. And finally, 7. Review and improve your essay using the reflection tool. As you work through the investigation, make sure to talk with your classmates and others who can support you as you learn about and respond to the central question: is post-apartheid South Africa living up to its promises? Good luck!